Hello, my name is Anjani, and today we're talking about Chiron. Chiron has been in the sign of Pisces since May 2010. Chiron looks like a little key. So if you know your chart, you can have a peek and find out where Chiron is on your chart. So this middle circle is representing the Earth. The little X represents you the moment you were born. And then this is where all the planets were. It's like a map of the sky the moment you were born. This outer ring represents now. So I made this for November 12th, 2017. Chiron is at 24 degrees of Pisces. So you can see what you have within a 10-degree radius of 24 degrees Pisces to find out how Chiron is acting in your life right now. So we all have what I like to refer to as a sacred wound, somewhere a fracture point where one of my dear friends that I just saw today was giving this like the thing that made Prince Siddhartha leave his home that night. We could call it his depression, his anxiety, his angst over suffering of humanity. But there's some wounding there that makes him want to do something. And we all have that, and it shows up in different ways. And sometimes we just keep laying tissue matrix down, keep hiding it, keep putting more band-aids on it, or drowning it out with alcohol, food, sex. But this fracture won't heal. And it's sometimes not meant to heal because the wound itself is the medicine. So something that came through very beautifully last year when I was doing intensive work with Chiron was that this wound that people talk about, the wound as where the light enters, the way that I saw this was that that wound was where your own magical juicy light merges with that infinite light of consciousness. Your own magical light merging with this light. So that's one way to think about your own sacred wounds. The next thing was, let's talk about where it is on your chart. So the house position will show what area of life the wounding may be in. So I have Chiron here in the first house. My friend that I was talking with today also has Chiron in the first house. There's a few authors who I don't have their books with me handy right now. One of them is Barbara Clow, who have worked with Chiron. That was like their life's focus was Chiron, and I really respect and honor their work. Barbara Han Clow, and there's another lady that their books are fantastic. What I like to do though is take what the other people have studied about Chiron and bring it into my own visionary space and work from what I'm perceiving, what I'm receiving, the way that information is moving through me and hitting all of my stuff. So the house position has to do with where your sacred wound might be. And the first house has to do with the way that you meet the world, your own emerging. The first house is the meditation on who am I, your first inspiration. The moment you're born, the first house represents the way that you hatch out of your egg, or the way you emerge from your house, or the way that your initiation into anything. So the fracture point being there, you can already assume some things like, okay, this is where the fracture point is. And then you can see Chiron on my chart has a square to Venus, who's on my midheaven. Venus on the midheaven is also opposed to Jupiter. This aspect here would say that the way that I embody the goddess, my feminine energy, is part of my contribution to the world and is being expanded and expanded evolution comes up because of this, making it so big that the way that I evolve my own feminine energy and the goddess energy within me is part of my contribution to the world. Jupiter makes everything bigger, so it sort of blows that up for me. One example I like to give is from my early years, where I would hear over and over and over from people, men, women. It didn't, it was from a lot of people, that I exude sexuality, that I exude sensuality. And I was not trying to do that. I did not like that, actually. So I would wear boy clothes and be, I didn't wear makeup. I don't wear makeup now at all. But it didn't matter because that super intense sexuality, sensuality was just exuding from me. So that square, Marilyn Monroe also had that same Chiron square to her Venus, something I like to keep in mind because the wounding is also related to, everything that has to do with Venus. And then Chiron is also square to Jupiter here. So Jupiter expands and its intention is evolution and expansion. So Chiron is a major component for me astrologically, and the way that I relate to the planets is like not thinking of them as something outside, but something that is a mirror for our own soul's journey and for our embodiment, our soul's embodiment and the journey through life or the adventure through life, however you like to think about that. So that's basically the setup for the house position tells us what area of life. The sign tells us the way in which it may the way it may express within that area of life. The first house being the area of life. For me, it's Taurus. So the way in which, so it's about receiving, being able to receive. And this really is one of my hardest things. It's very challenging for me. So not going to focus on my own stuff right now. If you're interested, I always feel this urge to just get super vulnerable using my chart and like expose everything about myself, but I never bring myself to do it. So actually a long time ago, I did read my chart and pretend like it wasn't me. And then I deleted it because I don't know, it's easier for me to go into your chart and get really, curious and exploratory about somebody else. But doing it for myself, I actually rarely read my chart. So today when I decide to talk about Chiron transiting through Pisces, is the first time I was looking like, oh, right, I'm in a Pluto cycle. So Pluto here at 17 degrees of Capricorn. So if you have anything within 10 degrees of 17 degrees Capricorn, you're in a Pluto cycle also. You could be in some form of a Pluto cycle. For me, it's the one that we're all guaranteed to have, the Pluto square, your natal Pluto. It's meant to dissolve and break everything that stands between you becoming you, the truest version of yourself. So my Pluto cycle started on December 12th, 2017. That was 2016, last year. And that exact day that my Pluto cycle started, I had the most intense traumatic event happen that very day, that same time. And it set off this whole year for me in this very intense, unusual, and different way, which a lot of my writing on intimacy and vulnerability and sexuality and love and all of that has come through this Pluto cycle, which is very fitting because Pluto has to do with that intensity, sexuality, femininity, the underbelly of your body. It represents the underworld, the goddess Kali, the goddess Pele, the volcano goddess, everything that has to do with uncovering what is hidden and sort of eating it and, consuming it and dissolving it. The word death comes through also with that. It's related, it's a similar energy of Scorpio. So back to Chiron. So we're having Chiron transiting through Pisces. Right now, what I would like to transmit in some sort of a way is the sort of idea about the healer. And so there's so many things. I get sort of triggered when people call me a healer, even though my work is in the healing arts, and everything that I do from the beginning of my memory has been in a sort of healing modality in one way or another. My career in the Navy for 7 years, I was a hospital corpsman and I did wound healing. That was my job for a long time. I worked in nursing and doing care for people and their wounds and pain and suffering. This has like been my sort of job in the world. So I still don't consider myself a healer. I feel like, in India, they'll name somebody with a das. It's like they're the servant of this certain type of energy. And I feel that way, that I'm a sort of servant to that healing energy. But I don't consider myself a healer. The reason is because I feel like everybody's a healer. Everybody has that within them, within their own matrix. And, you can access that piece of you at any time. And this is really what Chiron is helping us to uncover within ourselves. So wherever that fracture point is, let's say you have, well, I'm going to use my chart because actually Chiron is exact on Juno for me. Exact, my Juno is 24 degrees Pisces and Chiron is at 24 degrees Pisces. My friend who I met today and was spending really deep time with, he has Chiron at 26 degrees of Pisces. And another good friend of mine has his Chiron also at 26 degrees Pisces. So this transit activates that part of them, their own inner feminine, the way that they relate to their feminine energy and the way that they relate to women in the world is being activated by Chiron. For me, it's Juno, my relationship material, the way that I merge with another human being and the way that I merge with divinity itself is being activated by Chiron. So what does this mean? The Chiron transit will sort of set off that material, whatever that is for you. So Chiron is in my 11th house, which has to do with community, also has to do with, it's like Aquarius in a way. So having that hitting there could have, let's just focus on Pisces. Pisces represents the collective unconscious. Chiron is in Pisces until February 2018. So this is the piece of all of us that's being worked on right now. The way that we are able to go into that invisible realm of the collective consciousness or the collective unconscious and sense and feel. It's kind of like going into a dark room. I've lived in a lot of places that power went out frequently, a lot of tropical islands and things. And you might have to go in the dark and find where your things are. That happens. So, I had many years where I knew where everything was because it could happen. It happened regularly that there was going to be no power. So I would have to find it. That is a skill of being able to go into the collective unconscious, into your own unconscious, into your body. Your body's full of information. And so this whole thing about healing, because that's also a realm of Pisces, and it also is something that Chiron is working under. So sometimes the wound is not meant to be healed. Sometimes the wound is just going to be a wound. And the only thing that I can do about that wound within myself is notice it and feel it. And every time somebody sort of throws something at it, because that place is vulnerable. You know, in the movies, when somebody has a vulnerable spot and they're in a battle, the person who's the aggressor knows that, and they're gonna go for it, you know. And unconsciously, the people in our lives do that also, not on purpose. It's just that that spot is so open. And even though we try to hide it, the more we try to hide it, the more it becomes an object of awareness that the people around us are, you know, wanting to investigate that, and they're noticing it. So the thing is that we can't hide. We can't hide. It is something that is going to be revealed in one way or another. And the best thing to do, from my expert opinion from working in the healing arts for 17 years professionally, but really I would say all my life, is that the best thing to do is, you know, start to expose it. Let it be vulnerable. I use writing a lot, just writing. Sometimes taking the hand that I'm dominant right, I'll ask the question, or, you know, lay something out on the table with myself, and then take my other hand and respond. So this is just one technique that I wanted to give for working with your own inner Chiron material. If you have any questions, please ask. I don't mean to be so elusive, but I know that I am. I don't feel like I've given the fullness of a Chiron talk. If you have questions, ask. I will answer them pretty much right away, within 24 hours at least. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.